You're welcome to our class for today. This is a seminar on the role of Ionic in Angular application. And this is Ionic native. This seminar is presented by Jacob Ijoma. And without further ado, let's look at our content. The Ionic native description, then the Ionic native role in Angular application. Then we'll look at the purpose of Ionic native in Angular application. Then finally, we'll look at Ionic Angular app sample. Ionic Angular app sample. Alright, these are a few objectives we have to cover before the end of the seminar, before the end of the training. We should be able to describe Ionic native, explain the role of Ionic native in Angular application, and introduce to you the hybrid. When I mean the hybrid, I mean the Angular and Ionic blended together. That's what I regard as hybrid. Then the purpose of Ionic native. Alright, the question is, what is Ionic native? Of course, it is a framework that is geared towards mobile development. Though Ionic has its full framework on its own, but Ionic native is a TypeScript wrapper for Cordova plugins that brings in some native functionality to the mobile app that we need to build and make it easy to build. And that is what the role of Ionic native. It is still under Ionic framework, but this has greater support and greater inclination towards mobile application. Then what is the role of Ionic native? Number one, it provides a library. It provides a library that is mobile optimized with UIs like components, gestures, tools. All these are embedded into the Ionic native, and that's the role it plays in the place of bringing Angular and Ionic framework together. So for these tools to build fast and have a high interactive apps, this is where the Ionic native comes in. It has a special way of packaging the Cordova plugins and wraps it into a form that will be so friendly with Angular framework. Also, it brings in the Cordova as well, plugins as services, and pass it to the different Angular components as the need arises for those plugins to be used in each component. So these are some of the roles Ionic native plays in Angular application. It's a friendly library also for Angular. It's a friendly library for Angular. Alright, what's it on the role? Number one is cross-platform. It can work on mobile, work on desktops, laptops, iPad, and other. That's what I mean by cross-platform. Not only that, Android platform and also iOS platform, it can work in conjunction with Angular in these platforms. It's desktop configurable, can work on desktop, mobile focus and mobile friendly as well. And it also can support PWA, Progressive Web Apps. the role, still on the role, as you can see in our diagram, how it is responsive, even though on desktop and also on mobile device. It handles a lot of Angular digestive loops, complexity, and simplifies it for us. The callbacks are handled inside the Ionic native, and it is scoped and applied to the app we intend to build. So these are some of the rules that Ionic framework, or Ionic native rather, brings to the table when you combine it with Angular framework. It's a powerful UI component. You can see the support it brings in by comparing these two vehicles here, and I guess the one you would want to choose. The one on the left is having, though it may be a good engine, but an ugly face, while the one at the right is polished outwardly. We also have good engine, but the first impression, the sight look of the car gives a kind of appeal to the user or the intended user to want to make use of the vehicle. The same thing as well, by the same parity of reasoning, when it comes to mobile apps, I need to bring this powerful component and good and wonderful user component, user interface, and presents to the user that will be appealing, easy to use, and responsive as well. Also accessible, so that even the blind can also make use of this application. So that is the power and the thing, some of the things that Ionic Native brought into Angular application. The purpose of Ionic Native, we've iterated some of this: mobile friendliness, provide easy to add mobile components, like all those gestures and the rest, tabs, and also wraps Cordova plugin in a great way, suitable for desktops, mobile, both Android and iOS, and it also does support PWA. Now, look at another good purpose of Ionic Native in Angular framework. If you want to use Angular to build a framework, to build an app, you may not need to use the full Ionic framework, no, but you can use Ionic Native to add some of the flavors that we will need in those apps, and this is very, very essential. Very, very essential. All right, we'll be taking some demo to see how Ionic and the Angular is combined. All right, we're having a card here. This is Ion count title, Ion card subtitle, and this is the preview of it. Then you go back to the code base, look at it, then come to list. You see the preview. Then you come to the HTML. You see the head 2, being property bind with the use of Angular. Then these are action sheets. If you look at the preview, before we come to the code base, you see the place of Ionic and Angular being blended together. Alright. If I should take it back a bit and pause it at this point, you see these are cards, and these are Ion card subtitle. Then if you proceed to the next one, the list, you see where we see property binding, interpolation, alright. You can see interpolation in that place. Okay. I have waited patiently. I have vision, though I believe. Yes, list. Yes, this is where I'm heading to. You see the double curly braces that is used to wrap the album title, and this is purely angular. Then you see the ion list, these ionic tags, ionic elements, and this ng4 declaring a variable album of albums with the let statement, and this is purely angular blended with ionic, and this makes the work and the flow go easily. These are property binding that is in angular. Alright, so we can go to the next slide. Summary. The language now for development is mobile first responsive design. Because of the high demand of mobile devices and the high number of mobile device users are more than even the desktop users. Therefore, designing for the mobile first becomes imperative in the course of design and development. So Ionic Native and Angular are a good blend for these enterprise apps that are needed in the 21st century. We'll take a brief evaluation of what we have learned. You see here Ionic Native has a powerful component, and what could be the answer here? It's just as simple as that. Powerful user interface component. Alright, with Ionic Native, with one code base, we need to build for iOS, Android apps. How many code base do we need? Just one code base. Then as we go to the next slide. So what does Ionic Native do to the Cordova plugin? It wraps it. It provides a native functionality and builds Android app. It makes counter easy. So Ionic Native really adds native functionality easily. It makes it adding native functionality easy. So the final question, with Ionic Native, do we have support for desktop application? The answer is yes. Conclusion. So mobile device, as I have said previously, is out there in the market and is growing. And according to 2015 Gartner, they use that mobile app demand will go beyond development with a factor of 5 to 1 by 2020. And this is becoming a fulfillment already. It's happening now. And that is why mobile development is necessary, important, and mobile first design and development is also necessary. As we build our apps with whichever framework targeting the mobile market, mobile device market is a growing market and is worth targeting. Thank you. So question, I'm willing to take your questions. If you have any, you can reach out to me on the comment section. Thank you. for listening.